Let me know when we're ready to rock and roll.
Some more stuff.
And you got your camera over here going?
Yeah, that's been recorded.
Perfect. All right, here we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Diaries of Masculine Men. I'm Ken, and joining me today is my esteemed colleague, Alan.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today we've got an incredibly powerful story that I know is going to resonate with a lot of you.
Well, our guest today is Christian. He's a military veteran who faced one of the toughest battles of his life, but it happened off the battlefield. You see, Christian sustained a traumatic brain injury that left him unable to walk, unable to talk, or even take care of himself. And the prognosis was not good for him. But through sheer will, sheer grit, and determination, Christian defied all odds. And he's here today, not just walking and talking, but thriving. And he's going to share his story with us.
Honestly, that's exactly what our podcast is about. Diaries of Masculine Men. We want to highlight the stories of men who faced very difficult challenges and come out on the other side stronger, smarter, wiser, and can go out in the world and be able to share that to other people's lives and influence them to do a lot better. And those lessons learned are of immense value that should be shared and that everyone should, be informed about.
Absolutely. So, audience, if you're struggling, if you've ever felt like you couldn't get back up after life had knocked you down, this episode's for you. Christian's story will remind you that no matter the obstacle you face, you have the power to fight back and rebuild.
All righty, guys, let's jump into it. Christian, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
All right, my man, Christian. So do me a favor. Can you take us back to the moment when your life changed?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I remember these are some of the things that I remember first before that happened. January 15th was the day I got home from Iraq. And then I don't remember anything after that day until April 8th of 2009 was the day of the accident. I was on 635 and I was headed north to my home off of 291 highway. And there was a speed wobble in the left-hand lane that caused me to lose control of the bike. I was actually thrown when I got the bike to get back to its normal state. I tried to slow down just a little bit and I was actually thrown across the highway 200 feet doing about 70 miles an hour.
Holy.
I had bleeding on my brain in 4 spots, pneumonia. I lost 65 pounds in a medically induced coma. Plate and 6 screws in my left forearm. Fractured 3 of my ribs, overexploded my heart, collapsed my lungs, and paralyzed my left side completely. And I was thrown into a medically induced coma for 24 and a half days on the spot.
Do you remember, or rather, were you conscious at the moment of impact and then you flying through the air? Do you have any memories of that?
I'm wondering the same thing.
I'm just
I'm wondering what the hell that looks like.
The only memory that I have is of the handlebars, tank slapping. And then I don't really have too many memories after the tank slap, but I did receive a very cool nickname from the flight across the highway, Superman.
Superman.
I was riding with the Kansas City, Missouri Rough Riders, and
nice.
That's how I got my honorary membership. Kind of a rough ride, but
Yeah, rough ride to say the least.
right.
Wow.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, where do we go from there?
Overcoming that kind of accident. Jesus.
The next thing I remember from that was waking up in the hospital and actually seeing my car outside. But when I woke up, this was the second time I woke up. This wasn't the first time.
Oh, and you don't remember that first time?
First time I woke up, they told me about the brain injury. The second time I woke up, I was in a different room.
Now, when they come in and give you the, grim news about a brain injury, are you cogent? Are you cognizant? Are you processing what they're telling you?
They wake you up enough because I was so dosed that all I could remember was sleeping a lot. And then they come in, they wake you up, they make sure you're up, and then they start explaining it to you. And then when he started explaining it, the doctor looks at me and he goes, "You're going to be like a 4-year-old because the blood that's on your brain between your subdural lobe and your actual brain is there. It's on 4 spots and it hasn't come off your brain. And your parents don't want to get your head cut open because your dad says you're a pretty boy and you'd be mad if you had a scar for the rest of your life."
Oh, boy.
We're going to see if we can get this dissolved with a pill. And they actually did. But when I woke up that Second time, it was on my own. It wasn't from them waking me up, like from the medication. And
Is that like expected or?
No, I guess not, because that's when the weirdness started. And I woke up and I was like watching TV, and I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember Will Smith. I couldn't remember who different people were on different TV shows. I would just ask my mom, like, "What is this? This is hilarious. This is funny." And
Oh, dude, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like getting a fresh actual like look at that.
we started going from that, and then I remember my nurse walking in the room, and I looked at my mom, and I'm like, "Yo, who is that?" And my mom was like, "Why?" And I'm like, because she's hot." And my mom was like, "That's your nurse, and you've been with her for about a month." And I'm like, "A month, you say?" And she's like, "Yeah, her name's Lynn, and you've been with her for about a month." And I say, "Doing what?" And she's like, everything. Like they're bathing you, they're doing different stuff with you. She's occupational therapy, so they're trying to get you back.
So up to like that point, I guess you probably didn't necessarily like feel the depth, or maybe your mind couldn't go to the place of like thinking of the consequences of, oh fuck, I just had this brain injury, I might be crippled, like having that kind of.
My brain wasn't awake, mind you. When they put me in a medically induced coma, when they put you under like that, I was under for 24 and a half days. So my brain's still at the point of coming out of. I don't remember being in like the, what do they call it, the ICU when you first get to the hospital. I don't remember being there, but they told me all kind of stuff happened. I don't remember any of the stuff happened in the ICU that they tell me about. I remember being in the second room and waking up in the second room, and then everything was different from like the point that I actually woke up and the point that I started going, because then like I guess I could say it this way, the drill sergeants kind of kick in your mind, and it's kind of like you're back to basic training, like day one, and now you're surviving. Like, what in the hell do I do? You know? And they were taking me out, learning how to walk. We're doing like football drills and doing different stuff, and I had to like walk backwards. We're walking upstairs, and it hurt like hell, you know? Every day they did different stuff with me. They would do different stuff as far as speech. They would do different stuff as far as walking, talking, feeding me, and trying to put me back together.
And I gotta ask, man. So, first of all, you got told that you're gonna operate as a 4-year-old, and so I don't even know how you process that. But beyond that, like during this time frame, like what are your thoughts? I mean, are you uncertain what the future is going to look like? Are you relying back to like your Marine Corps or your Army days, to where it's like nothing's going to stop me, I'm going to beat this? I mean, like, where's your mindset at during this?
Survival. I got to make it. What are you saying? I'm gonna be like a 4-year-old. What are my doubt is to you now, because something about you's not right. Because mind you, I just came home from Iraq, so you're an enemy anyway. Yeah. So now I'm trying to figure that out, because where in the hell am I? And then one day I actually woke up and my nurse was Iranian. We had an actual conversation in Farsi. And my mom was like, "Okay, what the hell is he doing?" And she's like, "If he remembers Farsi and Arabic, he'll probably be okay." And I actually asked her where I was at, because I thought they had me in a prison. So it was survival. It was get up and go. Whoa. Once they start showing me different things, start showing me how to walk, I could at least crawl. I gotta go, You're back in that foxhole mentally again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've been in the military, so you're back there again, with the E2 trying to dig your shit out. And that's just how it was.
So you just had, fortunately the military background did provide you at least with a script to, all right, default mentality, just fucking plow through, get through it, and then just move on, stay consistent.
Fight or flight. I'd rather fight.
Blast through the pain.
Fight. How bad do you want to survive? My mom pushed me around in a wheelchair one day and pushed me around in the brain injury unit, and I was so mad at her because she was going slow. And then I asked myself, well, how fast would I be pushing myself in a wheelchair if I don't have a little straw to blow out? Like what are they doing for me? So she pushed me. It was real slow, and I was like, nah, something's got to be better than that. So I can remember them taking me outside, and they got the gate belt on me, but they're having me walk slow. They're having me do different football drills. We're doing them super slow. We're walking through them. And I can remember at some point kind of regaining enough balance to start trusting myself to go, okay, you know what? What's the next step? It's nothing's hard if I've already done it. You're just showing me how to redo it, right? So what's the next step? So every day to them, it was kind of a challenge of, okay, are you for real? Hey, Christian, put these shapes in order. So I would add one. We didn't tell you that shape. I know, but I'm testing you to see if
You actually respect the progress I'm making, and that like
right.
you won't view me in a certain.
Do you see
weakened
what's
state.
happening here? Like I'm fighting to make it, because I don't trust what the hell is going on around me. Like how,
Yeah.
you know, I woke up, I'm in a different place, and I just came back home from war. Now what's going on? And then nobody's really explained to me what happened yet. And then my mom told me, she looked at me one day and she's like, "Yeah, you had the wreck, right?" And I'm like, "Okay, cool, but explain something to me. How'd I get to Nebraska?" And this is when they finally knew that I was awake. After the comment about the nurse, this is when she panicked and she actually went and got them. I said, I only had $7.50 worth of gas in the tank. How'd I get 3 hours away? And she looked at me, and then she jumped up and she went and got the nurses, and she went and got the doctors, and they came in the room, a bunch of them. They looked at me and they said, "He's awake." Like the dense fog from the medication and stuff. He's awake, but this is faster than we've seen. And then all of a sudden, I know the cameras are coming and the documentary's being filmed, and I'm going. But now, okay, inside of my mind, now that I'm doing this, now that I'm achieving this, I have a purpose.
Would you say this triumph is the greatest achievement so far in your life then?
Yeah, I came up with a metaphor of how many people sit in the wheelchairs of their life. The bad relationship, the bad marriage, the bad job.
Just tolerating
lost
bullshit.
This, lost that, went through this trauma in life, and mentally I'm in a doggone wheelchair. Well, how are you gonna get up and walk again? How do you fight yourself enough to stand on your own to accomplish the next thing, to make the next move? I've never been held down by anything in my life to not get up and make the next step and fight for the next challenge. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that would allow somebody to push them around in a wheelchair. No. Like,
God, no, have some sense
we gotta
of
get there faster, baby. Let's go.
freedom,
You know?
independence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm used to getting there faster and on my own time. But now my spirit inside me is telling me that I have to do it, not you. How do I depend on you? This is my life we talking about here. I could sit in this wheelchair, or I could not sit in the wheelchair. So imagine the day if I rode in here in a wheelchair. I wouldn't have, because obviously I could walk again. But imagine that. Just wouldn't be right, would it?
No.
Story wouldn't be right, would it? No, it wouldn't. Me depending on somebody else after you just taught me how to survive and how to live and how to.
Especially coming back being a warrior, man.
Right.
You just survived
Going through that.
war,
And
to come home to that.
We're coming home. This is after 2 consecutive deployments.
Yeah.
Because the first one I was sending troops over, and then I went right after that to being in the fight myself.
So I'm curious, man. Like, were there during the process? I mean, I imagine the answer is yes, but I just want to hear it from you. Were there ever any low points at a low point? You know, where did you take yourself mentally to try to navigate whatever, mental roadblock or fear that you may have been facing?
Real raw and real honest with this one. 300 people showed up to the hospital. 300.
For you?
For me. That's the number I was given. 300. But when I was learning how to walk, when I was learning how to talk, nobody was there. And in those lonely times, it got a little dark. And there was times that I wanted to give up because, well, we didn't know what a brain injury was, one. And then everybody that I considered a friend, I was told that this was said that when I was in the hospital. If I woke up any different than what I was, they wouldn't be around.
That's fucked up.
But they never gave me a chance to be different. They changed before I got up.
Was there anyone that stuck by your side throughout the whole course besides your mom? Like,
God.
No, that's
So getting me through, I found myself one day sitting in my apartment, found myself in Job.
It's a powerful story.
God took everything away from Job, right?
Yep.
Everything,
Yep.
life, family, everything.
Just to test his faith.
Just to test his faith.
And that's how you felt?
That's how I felt. This is my test of faith.
Did that give you inspiration?
But this is also time for me to figure me out, because for all my life, I'm the youngest of 7, but I'm the only child between my parents.
You know, kind of on a tangent, but I'll tie it back together, is I'm currently reading a book called Single by Choice. And the premise of the book is that in order as a man to find yourself, you have to go and isolate. Like, not isolate in a bad way away from the world, but you have to step away from the world and have time for yourself in order to reflect and figure out who you are. And it kind of, what I'm hearing from you is that's kind of what you were going through.
Brother,
except you're stuck in a hospital bed.
Let's tie the Bible verse in.
Okay.
When I was a child, I spake as a child, and I did things as a child, and as a man, I have to do things as a man. That's what the Bible says.
Yes.
So yeah, isolating yourself and pulling yourself apart from what you used to do, and finding your new self. This is me. This. Let me step into my reality and actually be who I am. Let me express myself, because growing up as the PK, there's always that umbrella of.
You have a certain expectation, a certain cloak, disguise, whatever suit, societal expectation on how to behave. Yeah.
So God knocks you down. Then God wakes you back up one day and he says, hey, I'm going to restart you.
Yeah,
but you're going to be you this time.
Yeah.
So you draw heavily on the Bible. It helps you.
Yeah.
So were you like, I mean, did you have faith in like Jeremiah 29:12, where it talks about that I have plans for you to prosper, not to harm you, you know? And the fact that the reason I bring that up is that's not to harm you. Well, I mean, you're harmed. I'm not saying that God did it to you,
right?
But he allowed it to happen. But I guess it was just a testing your faith. Like they say in James 1:2, consider it pure joy, my brothers, for the testing of your faith will develop your perseverance.
Harmed, but I'm a better man in my recovery than I've ever been, physically and mentally. So
I mean, the resilience you get from that, like you're at a new level.
Yeah.
Like,
but in the moment, there's no foresight like that. You're not thinking, you know, when you're standing in the middle of something like that, I can't imagine that you're, you know, rainbows and sunshine, thinking like, I'm going to be a better man for this.
No, you just want to make it to tomorrow.
It took me until
consistency.
Let's say 2 months ago, when I finished therapy, to finally step into my reality, to finally get that okay, I'm comfortable, I'm confident, this is it, I'm here, you know, and now there's a purpose here. Well, with the things that we've discussed, it's bigger than myself. And I can't imagine what that's gonna look like. That's why I can't sit back here and go, well, what was me? We got more stuff to do.
Well, I know you're quite the ambitious person, because, you know, to kind of fast forward, so, you know, you do your 11 months of rehab, right? It was about 11 months. You said
in the hospital.
In the hospital, and then there's post-hospital rehab.
Right.
But then you go on to be a freaking a state and national or level competitive bodybuilder. I mean, like, what's going on, man? Are you just trying to blaze the world on fire and just be like, not only did I survive this wreck and I can walk and talk, now I'm about to go step on stage? And
before we get into those details, the one thing I do want to ask about is that time that you realized you are Job, you are now alone, and you realize you need to spend this time alone. What was the script in your head that you were telling yourself as terms of like themes that you need to address for yourself to just get to that better version of you, that proper Christian, the true Christian that is going to be in the world?
Okay, so around this time that this is all going on in my mind, this is when I kind of start going back to church and things like that. And I walk into church one day, and great lesson or whatnot, I can't even remember what was really happening, but somebody walks up to me and says, well, hey, you're a nice looking guy. Confidence went through the roof. Bam. And I'm like, okay, this is good. Like, I've come from this thing. I've gone, mind you, we had talked before, so let's back up a little bit, actually. I was at JUCO for that semester, and that semester I took the weightlifting class every morning because I wanted to get better physically, because the hospital had given me a piece of paper that said, take this 5-pound dumbbell and just, you know, do a couple curls
5 pounds.
and a couple reps, because the plate and 6 screws in my arm, you're not supposed to lift more than 40 pounds. I do 45, but let's not tell them.
Yeah.
So they had kind of wrote that in for me, and then I stuck with the class. And I wasn't really figuring out a diet or anything yet, but I was just working out. Now, I'm a high metabolism person. I've always been thin all my life. So you start putting a little bit of muscle on it. I walk into church one day and this girl goes, "Hey, you're a nice looking dude." And I'm like, "Okay, this is kind of
It's working.
Proof
Results.
positive. Proof positive. Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Right?
Thank you, Jesus.
So she's like, "I want to introduce you to my mom," and I'm like, "That's kind of quick, you know." I'm like, wait, wait, it's a little fast, God, don't you think? So we walk into the church, and her mom looks at me. Her name is Mindy Gorick, and she looks at me and she says, "Hey," and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" She said, "You ever think about bodybuilding before?" And I said, "No, why would I do that?" And she said, "Well, you got a nice physique." And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. I must be looking good today. This is my cologne's right." She said, "No, you got a nice physique. You should check it out." She said the next show was in 7 weeks.
Wait, does this go, or did she compete herself?
She was my coach.
Oh,
She competed.
okay, cool. All right.
Met her in church. So God is starting to give me back the Job process. God is starting to give me back stuff. So I just walk with me real quick.
Beautiful.
So she said, "We got about 7 weeks, and nobody's done this in 7 weeks. It takes about 18, blah, blah, blah." She's giving me the whole spill. She said, "Come to the gym every day." I said, "Look, I don't have a lot of money, so I can't really pay you like that, She said, "God told me to help you. Come to the gym.
Oh, man.
Let's figure it
Oh,
out."
bless her heart.
Yeah.
7 weeks, that picture I showed you,
Yeah.
5th place. That was the first show. The
It's a 7-week prep, and I don't think the audience has. Well, some of our audience, well, that's a very short prep.
and
That's
seven,
a third.
seven
Yeah,
week
that
prep
is.
Yeah, because Alan's on a cut right now, and it's a 16 or 20 week. So
Just
The 6
figuring
month
out
that
the-
transformation,
yeah.
but we're 6 weeks into it.
Well, 7 weeks, just figuring out the diet on day one,
Yeah.
and then taking that for 7 weeks and running with it, supplements and everything, and then get to the stage, first show, and I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And the judges would always tell me, you would figure it out, and it's kind of weird because they'd always have great conversations with me after the show, and they tell me, you're gonna figure it out. Well, actually, COVID was my figuring it out. After the first 3 shows, I cut the coach, because God was putting these people in place to help me, and I was figuring it out, and I finally got COVID out. I went from 180 to like 141,
God dang, that's
about 5.5% body fat, maybe.
yeah.
That was my show, but I decided not to compete because I had already proven a point, and it wasn't really to prove a point. But 1, God's not dead, and then 2, you can get up from anything and continue to go. So now, people say you're getting a bodybuild. Well, we done out of 10 years worth of bodybuilding, and Mr. South Dakota.
Yeah. Kansas, right? too?
4-time Mr. South Dakota, 1-time Mr. Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I proved that point, but to be in the place where I'm at now, mentally and physically, to be healthy, is probably my best asset. So to still compete, maybe one day we do one of those 45 and over shows or something like that, But for now, kind of sweep that aside and say, well, hey, I've done that. Now what's next? No.
Yeah.
And I've actually took on coaching other people, like how to lose weight and do different stuff like that. So I have helped people with it. But what's next? That was just a chapter.
Yeah. Are you like utilizing social media to help propel your brand as far as weight loss, or is it word of mouth, or just?
It was kind of word of mouth. I really didn't go too far with it, because I wanted to be a drill sergeant when I was in the military. And then when you bounce back from something like this, you hate excuses.
Yo, I bet.
So you giving me an excuse is the worst thing you could ever do, because where was I? Like,
come on.
I'm on my deathbed. Like we have work to do. You can. It's possible, but I've been, like I told someone the other day, the story is actually bigger than that. The story started a long time ago. When I was born, my bronchial tubes were closed and I couldn't breathe. So the first 4 years of my life, I was basically in an incubator, right? Born asthmatic. They did some holistic things. Kind of weird how they got me to start breathing on my own. Native American roots in the family and stuff like that. I won't really get into that at the moment, but Because if I tell you, you're just gonna flip out this podcast. We're gonna go longer today. It's like 3 o'clock before we walk out of here. But from then on, the fight has always been in me, and the bounce back. One day, my dad called me after he had a stroke and 19 seizures and said, "Hey, you know the one thing I know about you in your life?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "You bounce back from everything. It's survival. How bad do you want to live? How many people do you know that aren't living, that are walking around every day?" So that's kind of my motivation behind everything that I do.
Disrespecting the own
Right.
kind of body, functional body that they're given, yet they just consume, break it down, and then they have the audacity to have excuses and complain and just have no accountability at all.
Okay, so what did you just explain to me that I explained to you? The wheelchair. It's that simple, you know, and that's where people go, and that's where I didn't want to take it. I didn't want to be in a wheelchair. I wanted to get up and I wanted to function on my own, and I wanted to do things, and I wanted to live. You know,
you want to live. You want to be able to do, move, use your body.
What the 4-year-old would be, as the doctor was explaining to me to what the brain injury is, and this is where I come from now, as far as my thought in that. Like, okay, somebody gives you a diagnosis, and this is what I want people to know and people to understand. Okay. Listen to me here. Somebody gives you a diagnosis. One, you have no idea what their grades were like in school. A lot of C students have made it into the medical field, okay? Two, a book can give you a diagnosis, and a book can tell you what's possible of you, but a book cannot tell you what you are. So when a person diagnoses you with something and tells you that you are something, you're bipolar, or you have this, or you have that, I want you to understand something. What you were the day before you walked in that room is what you still are when you walk out of that room. It's up to you to beat the diagnosis. It's up to you to not be that. It's up to you to fight and to be strong and to put one foot in front of the other and to walk out of whatever they say that you are. Because you were you before you walked in, you're going to be you after you walk out. And guess what? You give them something to just feed you mentally, to get you to buy medication, to whatever it is that they do, that's on you. If you give up on yourself mentally and physically like that, it's on you. But you have to live, you have to survive, and you have to move. And if you don't.
And then just to relate with that, so I tore my ACL playing soccer, blah, blah, blah. Had the reconstructive surgery, and one of my biggest fears in life is being old and not being able to move. Because I get a lot of happiness, and I'm just grateful for a healthy body that can ski, skateboard, fucking lift heavy weights, just do whatever the fuck I want to do. Like, that just brings me joy. So going through that rehabilitation, that was like what I had in mind. I have to get back there. Like that, it's unacceptable. If I can't do that, then I'm just gonna whittle away, whatnot, wallow in my own little misery, think of myself as like in my shadow of my former self. And the outlook that I set for myself is what dictated, obviously, the recovery. So my physical therapist actually told me, it's like people who had re-injuries in their ACL, they're like, after, they've gone through therapy, it's a confidence thing. It's all mental. So like, say, you're playing soccer, you go in for a tackle, and like you're hesitant about how much you want to go into it, but you do, like, you have a greater chance because your mental state is off to re-injure versus you just going in confidently and like knowing that you're going to get the ball, take it away, and make the pass and transition play. So the mental aspect and the positive self-talk you give is immensely important to like the trajectory of your recovery.
When the doctor came in the room and the doctor said you wouldn't.
To hell with that, man.
I was like, yeah, okay. And that was my mindset from that point on. Yeah, okay. You're not gonna walk. Okay. You're not gonna do this. Okay. You know what I'm mad about? Nobody told me to run. Did all that walking.
They set the minimal, the most minimal expectations, right. Or say you can't even meet those.
Do this. No, let's do something different. There was this one particular day where my physical therapist came around. I was in a wheelchair. He's pushed me around, and he said, "You wanna go with me?" This is probably the best day of it all for me to remember and to even think about it all. This was the day that I knew I was okay. We're on a 3rd floor at the Madonna Rehab Hospital in Lincoln, Nebraska. He wheeled me to the door. His name is Scott. He wheeled me to the door. I get up and he says, "You want to go for a walk?" And I look at him and I said, "How far?" And he says, "It's about 3 blocks." And I said, "Okay, let's go." So we walk down all these stairs. Then we walk outside and we walk about 3 blocks to the library. I'm in pain. I'm hurting. Now, mind you, I told you I was on 22 pills, but I was hurting. Okay, this is my first time walking a distance in a long time. We get to the library. We sit down for a minute. He talked to me. I don't know why we're even there. We didn't read a book or nothing, right? I'm kind of like going to my mind, like, why go to the library? So he looks at me and he goes, you did a good job. You want to go back? And at first I'm thinking, yeah, call my mom. She'll you know.
That was it.
But I said, nah, let's
try
go.
it. Let's push.
Let's go. I'm hurting a little bit, but let's go. My leg's burning. Let's go. He said, okay. He said, you sure? I said, yeah, let's go. We walked back. It was the longest walk back to the hospital I could ever think of, right? Then we walk up the 3 flights of stairs. Then we get back to the wheelchair. I sit down. He wheels me back almost to my room and he stops. And there's like the nurse's station. And as he's reaching down to put his hand down the small of my back, it was almost like something just lifted me up out of the chair. Right? He didn't help me get up.
It was all you.
It was all me. And then the wheelchair goes away. So I turn around and I'm like, wait a minute. Didn't my insurance pay for that? Like, hold on. The Army paid for that.
Yeah.
Like, TRICARE covered that
Yeah.
wheelchair, right? Give me my wheelchair back. And he's like, nah, you don't need this. And I'm like, man, what's next? A little bit of worry, but okay, I'm good enough to get out of that. What's next? So they put me in outpatient therapy behind the hospital. Now this is hilarious because I actually experienced this moment yesterday. But the way I actually learned how to walk on my own for distance, there's a Dairy Queen down the street from the outpatient hospital they put me in, and I like peanut butter parfaits. So,
Hey, you gotta find that motivation. Yeah.
I found some motivation to get out and walk every day and to just start functioning every day again in society. And
Yeah.
that Dairy Queen was my push. So I went and got my peanut butter parfaits with extra peanuts, and I would walk back to the house, and I'd hurt a little bit, and I'd cry a little bit, and I'd sit there and just think about different things or whatever, and okay, we're going home next. Now what? Now how am I going to function with life in this? So I finally get home, and everything's cool, back in my own environment. Everything's great. On the medication, everything is cool, except I'm doped up all day. 22 pills. Get up in the morning, eat breakfast, take a handful of pills, pass out on the couch. Same thing lunch, same thing for dinner, right? Until this one particular day, and I discovered marijuana, and that has taken me off all the pills. But going through those different little chunks and those little different phases was a mental push each time, because you don't know what you're preparing for. You don't know what you're stepping into. You don't know what to trust now. Now my brain's different. Now I got to function different. And then now I'm back into the world where are the people? Where are my people? Where are all these people that I help? Where
Nowhere to be seen.
My family, my mom and dad had divorced. I came home from Iraq. My mom and dad divorced after 30 years, right when the accident was happening. Right before I went to Iraq, my best friend got killed. So there was a lot of things going on in my life that was like, okay, I'm stepping back into this now, and what do I do? Well, they told me I was going to be stupid, so let's go back to school and figure out if I'm going to be stupid or not. 3.6 GPA my first semester back in college. Psychology is my top class. And it was kind of a weird awakening, because I'm sitting in psychology one day, and they go, yeah, we had this neuropsychology thing that we saw in the film festival this summer. And I'm like, no, don't show this, right? And it was the documentary.
It was your documentary.
So this kid says it to the professor, and they start showing it on YouTube, and I stick my head down, and the TV paused, and I look up, and he says, is that you? I said, yeah. He said, how come you didn't tell me? And I said, tell you what? And he said, that you have a brain injury. And I said, so how am I supposed to just walk around and tell people I have a disability? And he said, you should. You should share this one. And I said, okay, why? And he said, you know you got the highest grade in my class? Wow, okay. You just told all these kids are stupid. But now I have to walk out into life and I have to function. Now each time though, I'm getting a little bit of confidence here and there to push through and to make different decisions and to keep walking and to keep doing things and to keep trusting myself. With no guidance,
Sure. One of the things that we try to talk about quite a bit on this is
it's not the same.
It's
not the same.
There it is. Confidence, and trying to explain to people how to develop confidence. Excuse us, technical difficulties.
It's right there.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. To our young audiences, confidence in itself. From your perspective, how do you ascertain or develop confidence?
Acknowledging each little thing that you accomplish.
Okay.
And accepting that for what it is, and then taking the next step forward. The only harm in that is sometimes you got to sit back and celebrate yourself, because if you don't, you keep making these accomplishments, you keep making things happen, and you don't really take the time to catch up with yourself mentally. So everything's kind of okay.
It's
like,
a way of
what's next?
developing the self-worth in a way. Like, you achieve something little, it's like, whoa, I did something new. I took it, a little bit higher. Like, you do that over a period of time, but you don't necessarily recognize that those are actual accomplishments for yourself. Like, your self-worth is very skewed at that point. You don't view yourself as necessarily almost capable of achieving high, yet you are doing that. So yeah.
And really it wasn't anything until I learned the difference of it by going to therapy and learning, okay, well, you got to slow down, you got to celebrate yourself, you got to celebrate the wins, you got to celebrate the losses, you got to do this and that, just for your mental health, because everything to me was what's the next thing, and everybody's like, oh my God, you did this, and I'm like, yeah, really? What's next? That's
What is next?
Maybe a book.
Yeah.
Maybe a movie script.
Well, I got to be honest.
But really helping people is what's next. That's what I want to do.
Well, there's been a handful of things that you've said that were profound today, and with our podcast, our audience is between 18 and about 30 men that are kind of lost, that don't have role models. They're maybe fatherless households or absentee fathers, but they don't have inspiration in their life. And so my question to you is, are there any lessons that you think that you might want to share with, a younger generation as to, how to help them help themselves? Because clearly nobody helped you, you did it yourself.
Once again, you know what it came down to? Learning me and understanding me. And therapy helped a lot with that. Learning who I am, understanding it, and stepping into my reality as a person. But then again, trusting and loving myself enough to, make those steps and listen to different people when I needed to listen, and take the guidance that I was given when it was there.
One question that I have relating to this: did you have any examples, role model examples, who displayed these kind of characteristics of, all right, resilience, being aware of yourself, taking the time for yourself to work on yourself and go out and then retry in the world? Or was this more so something perhaps that you picked up along the way through certain decisions and situations you put yourself in and learning experiences?
I did have those here and there growing up, different little things that I could pull apart from different people. But I think really internally.
It came from within.
And then mostly military. Like I said, they taught me how to survive. Mm-hmm. And survival is the thing as far as life. What are you doing with your life? I think we all think about that every day as far as what we do as far as a job, titles and things like that.
The moment boredom sets in,
but
you think about that.
When it comes to living and functioning in survival, what are you doing? You know, some of us go to the gym, some of us don't. When it comes to health and different aspects of our life, so what there has to be a bigger personal push internally that says I can and I will. Every time they told me I couldn't do something, I'm one of those people that have to challenge that. I gotta
Got to prove 'em wrong.
right. Something different has to happen because you're telling me that I can't function or I can't be the same.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what the same is. You know, I don't know what I was, but I know what I am. You know, I know where I'm going now. So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It is.
one of my dreams, because a lot of people had a lot of different weird things about one PTSD. I've been diagnosed 100% with that, but also brain injuries. I would like to talk to sports teams. I would like to talk to the NFL. I would like to talk to colleges about what head injuries actually are. And one, how you can recover from these, from the guys that they do have still sitting on the sidelines, and how you can live life after the brain injury. Because of some of the different things that I've seen as far as like Jovan Belcher, some of the different NFL people that we've seen, you know, have different problems and stuff like that, that have had head injuries, different sports as far as boxing. I would like to talk to the sports commissions, boxing, UFC, whatever. And I want to talk to them about what the actual brain injury is, and then how to live through it.
You know, we're very well connected with the military. A lot of our guests are veterans like yourself. And in the upcoming episodes, we have a team from Nevada. They're out the Top Gun, the base out there where they did Top Gun. They moved it from Miramar to Nevada, O'Fallon, Nevada. And so there's a whole team of those guys. And we'll be linking up with them. And I think that might be an excellent opportunity for you to talk about concussive injuries, you know, brain injury, whether it's done by concussion from explosions in combat or falling off your deck on a ship and hitting your head. A brain injury is a brain injury. So, I mean, if that's a goal of yours, I think that, quite frankly, the story that you've shared today could be very beneficial to other people, because I've seen it all too often where you talked about diagnoses earlier, where someone says, you've got a brain injury and you're going to be a 4-year-old. And I've seen it so many times where people swallow that pill and they assume that identity,
Right.
and they become the diagnosis.
Right.
And they get stuck.
And
They get stuck
And
because
that
a
wheelchair,
doctor told,
set their own
well,
tone.
because someone in authority,
Right.
an expert, told them, this is who you are. And then that they become what they're being told they are.
Well, the thing is this: that's a curriculum. They're taught by books, right? What changes the curriculum? Me.
Yeah.
The medical
Outliners.
anomalies, the people that are different than the diagnosis, the different things that happen. You can research a bunch of people that are the same all day, but what happens when I show up?
Yeah, you're what they call an outliner.
Right.
You know, the
Right.
exception.
Study the outliner, study the exceptions, and look at the exceptions versus just going to people and saying, "Hey, you got this." Not because people aren't that. They are who they are. The minute they walk in, and the minute they leave, it's the same person. But now we got a title stuck to it. Come on, man.
Man, would you be interested in talking to like high school level, sport programs?
Yeah,
Or,
high school, college, junior college.
I mean, because there's so much more than just your brain injury. I mean, that's the catalyst to, the beginning. That's part of your story, but that's not your whole story. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's not your identity.
Right.
That's just something that happened to you. And because of that experience, you become this thing. And I think that the world would benefit to hear this. We've not had a guest. Now I know why Dr. Williams said to bring you on this podcast, because, we mostly get people that have gone to war, murdered a bunch of people. They have a bunch of moral freaking, issues, and they're struggling with that and talking about those hardships. But we've never quite had something like this. And this is something where, you could reapply your lessons and it would,
any context.
Yeah, it would resonate with so many people. Would you not agree?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all love the good triumphant.
Yeah, because most people
personal
can't.
hero story.
Yeah,
Like,
they
it's
can't
just-
relate with murdering people in war and then coming back from that. But they sure in the hell can relate.
Like an injury
Yeah.
that like debilitates you, and then being told like, oh yeah, you're
that's-
gonna be a
that's
fucking vegetable.
Really,
No.
what I want to do, because how many times do you hear, besides Magic Johnson, oh, somebody's got this, and when's the last time you heard somebody stand up and talk about what they got?
You don't see it very
Or how to
often.
live through it,
They
or
hide
how to
it.
function with
Yeah.
it, or why can't I be the spokesperson? Why can't I be the face of it?
There's no reason you can't.
Right. Let's do it. If I didn't do that, I feel like I would be I would be just killing my own purpose, you know? How could you sit behind that and not do anything and not help anybody else? I gotta take my blessing and I gotta help somebody else live.
If you are able-bodied and can do things, share that with others and help.
Right.
However you can, do it as charity, and that's that. Like, just be there. Like, sometimes someone just needs that, and you're there at the right time. And if you can provide at least just some kind of, I'm gonna just call it love, then you'll potentially change their day.
There's been
Life
quite a few
trajectory.
days where I've ran into people that have randomly told me, well, I'm having a bad day. And I say, yeah. You want to hear about a bad day? And they, yeah, let me hear about a bad day. And around about 5 minutes of my story, let me give you a little preview. Wow. Okay.
I'm not having a bad day.
Right. My day ain't that bad. Right. It really ain't. You know, and not to compare it or anything, but live. Go function. Go pick yourself up and function and live and trust
Just don't
yourself.
sit in the negativity of like those feelings, because remember, feelings are temporary.
We do that with a lot of things in life. Finances, everything. No, get up and go make something happen. Go be what you want. You know? If you don't do that, then you'll be the 4-year-old with the blood on his brain that's trying to get pushed around in the wheelchair, trying to figure life out. And I couldn't sit and just be that.
You know, and my background's healthcare. I work in a hospital, and all too often I see people that sustain injuries, even traumatic brain injuries. So I know quite well. I'm not a neurologist by any means, but I see how there's an alteration in personality and changes in demeanor and stuff like that, depending on the type of injury. But I see what we call organic failure to thrive, to where basically they get an injury and then they just succumb to being wheelchair bound and going to a nursing home for the rest of their life.
They accept their position.
Yeah, without even trying. When they've had every opportunity through occupational therapy, physical therapy, they just give up before they even start. So you're an anomaly, because I've been doing medicine for 25 years, and I've never heard a story like yours. Period. Not once. I've never had an outcome like that. So yeah, you're definitely unique, and I think that your story will certainly, and we're not even done yet. We're still just getting started. Will certainly resonate with this audience, because, I mean, I wish I had taken a better note on some of the things you said, about just living, and just, so again, we're really big on wanting to impart wisdom on people. Are there any other tidbits of wisdom that you can think of right now that might be applicable to, help people through whatever their struggle is? Namely, what we run into is a lot of people feel stuck in life, and they're not happy with what they have going on in life, but they don't know how to get from A to B. Do you have anything that you might be able to comment on that?
I've had a couple of times where things where I felt like I was constantly in a struggle. But it's faith and determination and push and drive that help you just move forward. If you don't have any of those, if you don't have a little bit of faith in yourself, if you don't have determination to get up and make something change, then like we said, you'll be in the wheelchair. And if you metaphorically just put yourself in that wheelchair, whether it's your job, I have people call me all the time, say, I don't like my job. Okay, well,
So do something about it.
do something about it. Go get a degree, change jobs, go DoorDash every day. I do it. $100 every day. It's $36,000 a year. They're like, move, do something. Am I gonna let this person behind me guide the rest of my life in the wheelchair? Am I gonna depend on anybody else? And a lot of people fall into their roles, like we discussed, as far as the diagnosis, as far as life. Oh, life has always been this way, and life is always, yeah, if it is, it is. But are you living it, or are you letting it happen? You can't just let it happen. And in the wheelchair, you let it happen. Now, some people can't get up, and some people can't function from the brain injuries, and some people from some medical things can't. So I want to put that out there. It's not possible for some people. But if you can, then you don't have an excuse to make more of yourself, to make more of everything that you're doing in life, to get to the next goal. Why want when you can have?
It's powerful. Why want when you can have? What is it? What are you thinking, Alan, when you hear that?
I mean, you just do it. You gotta go out there, and if you want something, you gotta change. Like, it's on you. You gotta. No one else is gonna be there to exercise the willpower for you, right? You're not gonna have that nurse pushing you on the wheelchair. Like, you don't. Like, you gotta be that nurse yourself.
And let's give a lot of credit to the military for that one again, because it's just like the rank system. You come in as a private, right?
Yeah.
You went to Marine Corps, you're private. Private so-and-so and private so-and-so. And private so-and-so wants to be in charge one day, right? And private so-and-so wants to be sergeant so-and-so, or lieutenant colonel so-and-so, or general so-and-so. Well, in life, this is what happens. We go through all these levels of school, right? You gotta pay attention. Some people stop at the high school. Some people stop at the junior college. Some people stop after bachelor's degree. Some people go master's degree. Some people go PhD. It's your life. You have to go get what you want out of your life. You have to live. You have to function. And you have to be the best asset that you have. You can't depend on anybody else. You can't lean on anybody else for guidance and things like that. Maybe.
Be very selective. Very selective on who you listen to.
But live. And for a lot of times we don't really get that when we come up in families and stuff. Everybody has a role. You know, I'm the baby brother, and everybody's got these roles, but I'm doing better than some of my siblings. They chose to stop. I'm not stopping. If I stopped, the story wouldn't be what it is.
No, and you were mentioning earlier about, writing your book, but the thing that's holding you up from writing your book is because your story just keeps on progressing. It ain't stopping. That's what I'm saying. You got to do a part 2, part 3, part 4.
Just have different themes. Like, all right, the resilient stage, overcoming triumph, and then it's like leveling up to new levels, and then like, I don't know, some like fun adventure, gnarly stories that you get to just do because you've fixed yourself.
I can see. I see, Christian. I mean this when I say this. I can see you on a grand stage. Whether or not you decide to stand behind a podium, I don't really see you. I see you being in front of the podium, moving around the stage, but I see an audience, and I see them leaning into your story.
Public speaking is my dream.
I know, man, and you've got the story to tell. All of us have stories. Some are worth sharing, others really don't. They're not worth their weight in salt. It's just a story. Some people haven't done much with life. You've done a lot.
I've lived.
Yeah.
You gotta live.
Gone through hardships.
Would you change? If you could go back and turn back the clock to time, would you change anything?
No, this is my story, my testimony, my journey, and how that helps other people. That helps other people. How that benefits them. That benefits them, and that's I'm sticking to that. Something that I've said or done along the way somewhere has really motivated and helped somebody, inspired somebody to get up and do something different about their life. And that's what I want. That's I think my whole purpose in this now is just to show people that no matter what you go through, don't be held down by consequences, man. Don't be held down by things and by something somebody's telling you are. Oh yeah, you got this and you are that. No, you're not. You are what you tell yourself you are. My brain was completely shut down. You gotta understand that part. My brain is completely shut down. And then I wake up one day and say, I got to. I am.
Wow, man. So, how long, once you came out of your coma, did you feel like your brain was working? I mean, was it an immediate thing? Were you foggy?
There was days, but it kind of took along the whole process time of the time I was in the hospital.
So it was just a process.
Because at first the waking up is kind of like, okay, the dense fog is there.
Do you think it was partly all the narcotics and the all the sedated medicine?
I could tell if they changed the pills. I could just a bunch of different stuff.
Okay,
happening.
So on that note, we're going to break into a new topic because you did bring something up, and we have never talked about this on our podcast, but we're gonna because I think it's fitting.
Okay.
The topic of cannabis.
Yes.
Okay,
Let's.
great, because I think it has medical utility. Off air, I kind of shared a little bit about my experience with marijuana. I'm an advocate for it. I think that it's a safe alternative to a lot of medications. So share with us a little bit about how you went from 22 pills to transitioning to the use of cannabis, and now you don't take any.
I like to give credit to my brother for this one.
Okay.
My older brother Corey came in the house one day with a strain called White Widow, and I decided to go on my deck and test it out. Lunchtime,
A great sativa, baby.
great. Never touched another pill after that day.
I mean, you just knew right then and there. Like that was your aha moment.
I was up and I was functioning because the medications they gave me now, they put me in a medically induced coma on site of the accident, right? So
Yeah.
for 24 days I'm in the coma and then I'll wake up. Well, within between that time somewhere I fell off a hospital table, so I had to get like or my nose got hit, nothing got messed up, but something was messed up to the point where I couldn't smell for a little bit. So I didn't have an appetite. I wasn't sleeping right. Nothing was going on right. And they couldn't give me a pill for anything that wasn't right. Right? They can't give you a pill to eat. They can't give you a pill to sleep. They can't give you a pill to, and the doctor's telling me this. Just looking at me telling me this. And that particular day, I smoked and I've been smoking since. I have not stopped.
And you function just fine.
Just fine.
So would you say, like, because there's a gross misconception, even though cannabis is becoming more acceptable, there's still a large population, both civilian and in the medical community, that still think it's an inappropriate substance.
Now, I would like to say this: the use and stuff like that. Everybody's tolerance level is different, but as far as what they make it to be,
It's not the devil's lettuce.
no. I'm calm. I like
It's
to
not
take
some
a lot.
boogeyman.
I'm calm. I like to take a lot of naps. Jokes are really funny. Music is great, and
And food probably tastes
You have to
pretty
be
good,
just disciplined about it. Like with anything, it's just a discipline. Don't like if you know, all right, if I smoke too much, it influences my productivity, then all right, if I want to continue using it, then I need to do it either just at night or times when you can afford not to be productive, or rather when you are doing something that doesn't need like that kind of professional attention or like a certain amount of focus. Whereas
you also have to know the difference in the strain itself.
Oh,
too,
absolutely.
between your indicas and your sativas. Like I
yeah,
only
study
take
like
indica
be aware of how it
at
affects.
night when I want to pass out and go to bed, and then sativa during the day when I want to function and do stuff, and I'm not
Yeah.
but I don't even get that because you look at things like how's Willie Nelson, Cheech Chong, Snoop, and all these people smoke all doggone day, and ain't nobody studying these people to find out that they're highly very functioning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
Snoop
that
Dogg's
it's
got
not
like
that
10
kind of
businesses.
a drug.
And
When you look at marijuana compared to like everything else is doped up, sleeping on the couch to 22 pills. Marijuana's like,
you have
With
a-
also a crazy amount of side effects that come with each of those pills that you take.
yeah.
Versus marijuana, like what?
And so
if you
let's
get hungry.
be real raw and honest about this. Like let's go a little bit further, dig into that. Like even when I was bodybuilding, I was smoking.
It helps get all those meals in when you got to get them in.
Pain receptors.
yeah,
It helps you
Calming
sleep, or
different
rather,
things
like
down.
yeah.
after gnarly leg day, dude.
Yeah.
A little fat indica DB.
Yeah. Eating 5 meals a day. How you think I did it? Like, but I mean, it's not like you say the devil's lettuce, or what anybody want to take it as far as a negative and say that it's negative. It's not that. It's the most relaxing, and it's the one product that can do a lot of things that the medication can't do.
Mm-hmm.
It also comes from the ground, not synthesized in a
You
lab.
can take the seeds of it and grow it in your backyard if you
Yeah.
you need to.
Yeah.
but-
I agree. I think a lot of it has to do with your intention too. I mean,
Intention setting behind everything you
if
do.
you're sitting on the couch smoking pot 24 hours a day playing video games and you're neglecting your occupational responsibilities, your household chore, I mean, if that's what you're doing, then yeah,
Not a
I think,
responsible human being.
I think it's bad for you. But if you're doing what you're doing, where you're off 22 pills, like you said, with all the side effects, because there are no free lunches when you're taking medication. There's side effects, and then you have to take another pill to mitigate that side effect, and and so on and so forth. Well, marijuana, it's not that. You don't smoke pot and then have to have something else to counteract it. It works just fine by itself as a standalone therapy. And the fact that it's got such a broad use and utility, And the greater thing is that we know that marijuana creates neurogenesis, which is neuro meaning brain, genesis meaning redevelopment. So it helps to redevelop the synaptics aspects of the brain.
Right.
So, I mean, that's only going to help a brain injury. I'm not going to say it's going to do it, but it surely ain't going to hurt it.
Well, and like the stupid myths and stuff that you hear about, oh, marijuana kills brain cells and da 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 da. Well,
It's
how
quite
do I
the
go
opposite.
from 22 pills a day to smoking marijuana to a 3.6 GPA in college with a brain injury?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why I tell people all day. It's like, you have a headache, so you take an aspirin. Sure, it might put a hole in your stomach and you get an ulcer, but hey, it's just an aspirin. It's a safe drug. It's like anything can be bad for you.
A safe drug. If you take 13 of them, be your last drug.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you smoke all that weed, you got.
Yeah, I can't imagine taking 22 pills a day. I've never in my life.
I think it's best to be your own, or experiment on yourself within reason, or rather test people's notions of what they say to you. All these so-called experts, do not listen to them entirely necessarily, but take it with a grain of salt on some things.
I would advise you though, if I get you lined up
grain
with these high school, speaking, probably leave the marijuana topic off the table. They're still on the just say no thing.
Well, what the kids are doing anyway.
Oh, I know. Yeah. The teachers are lying to the students are lying to the teachers. Everyone's lying to everybody. It's not about just say no. It's just say no and lie about it. Yeah, we know that.
I would say best thing, just hold off until you're after or older than 18 before you touch the stuff. To
Junior
be
college, we'll talk about it. But
once you establish, or at least have a sense of a discipline, a routine, then sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't try marijuana until I was 18, 19.
I was 30,
something.
38.
But I could tell you how I felt with every different narcotic they gave me. When they gave it to me, I could tell you exactly how I felt.
Yeah.
I'm in a wheelchair, and right before I left the hospital, they gave me this narcotic, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna change your pills up and give you this narcotic, right? It's real powerful." And they gave it to me. This is when my mom was rolling me around, right? And I couldn't get up. They giving me the pill. I'm in a wheelchair, but I actually felt like I was standing outside myself, like I could roll the wheelchair. And the doctor was like, "How do you feel?" And I was like, I'm having an out of body experience right now." He's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Dude, I feel like I'm over there, but I'm right here."
Whoa.
In the chair. And he's like, "Okay." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't like the feeling of this at all. Y'all got to take me off these pills." And he changed back to whatever it was. And then I had pill vials. I had a little plastic case of just pills.
Sounds like you were like a science experiment, dude,
Right.
like a lab rat.
That's
man.
what it felt like. And then when I'm telling you, the very first time I smoked, and my brother just looked at me, and my dad is like, "Hold on." He's like, "What time is it? You're awake?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, you're functioning. You're okay. Like, you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, why?" He's like, "'Cause you want me on the couch passed out. Keep smoking." And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
cool." And now, mind you, my dad was a pastor when I was growing up, so we had never really crossed that.
Yeah.
But we actually
That's amazing,
smoked
man.
together a couple times. And
Nice.
my mom said, "Well, baby, if it's helping you, go home and smoke it up, baby." So, so every time I go home, she takes me to the dispensary. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't have a dad growing up, but I have a very close friend, and his dad is kind of like a father figure that I'm super close with, and I go and shoot the shit with him. He taught me how to smoke brisket, when I moved out of Chicago to come back here, all that sort. But yeah, we'll definitely partake in the cannabis consumption together and just, share stories. And it's a beautiful thing when you can just have that moment with someone senior that's one you love, that they're a role model, and just, I don't know, just adapt to the relationship when you can kind of toke it up together.
And what's cool is it's kind of like you asked me if anybody stayed around. Some people did stay in my life, but my one coolest friend that actually stayed in my life, and I could call him right now, and he'd drive over here. Right, it's my pothead friend from high school. So,
Dude, absolutely. One of my friends I made in Chicago. This is what I consider one of those real life professional friends, not just oh, here's a whole bunch of kids at school, easy to make friends there. But this guy, we made friends over, "Hey, you smoke weed? I smoke weed. Let's go smoke weed together. Let's talk." And then, you're just best buddies from there.
yeah, weed is not It's not as bad as they try to make it, and it does a lot of great.
No, definitely do that over alcohol.
Yeah, well, definitely. That would be a great topic to bring in front of a bunch of physicians. And so, one of our contributing members, Lindsay South, she's over at the Renew Brain Treatment Center. I'd love to get an audience of her neurologists and stuff to hear about your experience with being able to come off all those medications by using marijuana. Whether or not they'll be receptive to it, hey, all you can do is tell the story. Some will, some won't. But that's how we start bridging gaps, is by starting informing
talk
people.
about it.
Yeah.
If we can do that and get better medications for people based on that, that's the goal.
Yeah.
How about let's just take the medications out of the equation. Let's actually treat people's root cause problems and get them better. Let's have the medical industry do that, not push pills.
Wow. Well, before we wrap up today, man, I want to hear from our listeners. If Christian's story has inspired you today, or you face a similar challenge in your life, let us know in the comment section. We'd love to hear how maybe you've overcome an adversity, or what lessons have you learned through your struggles, or perhaps if you have a question for Christian. Christian, do you have social media that they can reach out to you? Or we could put the link in the bio, or if you want to go ahead and tell it on air.
Well, my name is Christian Stokes on Facebook. You could just reach out, inbox me.
Are you cool with people reaching out and
Stokes
getting
81 on Instagram? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And we'll put a link in the bio with your socials and the social media stuff like that.
Okay.
Yep, I want to say again, thank you very much for coming on today, for sharing your story, sharing your experiences. It's an honor to hear something like this, and also one where it's a true triumphant tale of perseverance, self-accountability, and a relentless will. Ultimately, that's the key word that I get from you: relentless willpower. Just don't stop, keep going.
Thank you.
And I hope all the young men out there that have heard Christian's story and that have been listeners today, please understand that it's on you. You choose what you want and dream the biggest you can. It's possible. You might be in a hard place today, but just at least dream. Have an imagination and just see yourself ever so slightly closer to that. Just take a step mentally and then go from there and see if you can put that into reality, or identify a practical step to take towards that vision.
Don't wish for it, have it.
That's right. So whether it's in the comments, DMs, or emails, don't hesitate to share with us. This podcast is about creating a space for men to learn from each other and grow. Together we can push through whatever life throws at us.
And you never know, your story might inspire others and offer some little breadcrumb to a new beginning and a new way forward.
Christian, once again, this has been a true pleasure. I see big things for you. And so with that said, I'd like to leave an open invitation to have you back on, because it'd be great to have you get...
Actually, we can talk about training.
Yeah. Yeah, we could, whatever. Or, once you get out there and get that public speaking going, man, it would be love to catch up with you and hear how that's going, But we'd love to hear from you again if you'd come back on.
I'll do that.
All right. Well, all things said, we appreciate everyone tuning in today, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Good job, man. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Very articulate.
Fucking
man.
hell, too. You flew 200 feet?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
70 miles an hour.
God damn it, dude. That is Superman.
This
human missile.
This came